All right, hello and welcome everyone to this brief, hopefully brief showcase. I'm Pontifex. I'm one of the developers for Parabellum. I work under the legendary Ave Metal himself. Actually, he's the father of that mod. And I'm sure this game came out like a decade ago, so I'm sure if you're watching this now, you know who Ave Metal is. If not, you know what the mod Parabellum is. So I'm not even sure what I'm introducing that for. Anyways, we're actually making a new campaign set during the first Punic War, not the second, not the more popular one with Hannibal Barca and the rest. But a lot of work has been put into that one, probably hundreds of hours actually. Now I think about it, so yeah, we're pretty excited about that one. I think I'll probably do a mod showcase for that one too once we get close to beta. But anyways, let me tell you about this imminent mod that I've been developing for quite some time now. I think like over a year perhaps. I've decided to call it Successor Wars since it's set earlier in the wars of the Diadochi, specifically in the year 306 BC. So that's the start date for Successor Wars. So what I think I'll do here is I think I'll give you first a general overview of the mod, and then we can go into a campaign, and I can show you a sort of sneak peek at what's been done, as well as what's to come post-release as well. So my overarching goal with this mod was to simply offer the average Rome 2 player another vanilla-based DLC or vanilla-based experience. And by that I mean I didn't want to stray too far away from vanilla, the vanilla feel, just kind of in places like where I needed to, pretty much, because I understand wholeheartedly that the masses were not fans of the vanilla experience. That's like kind of why modders are, they were very popular with this mod actually, because people were not fans of the vanilla feel. But I'm partly a fan of it, but like the mod that I've created here it's not just vanilla. Like, for example, something important to note off the bat is that this uses the Augustus campaign map, not the Grand campaign map. And like as far as I know, the only other mod that does this is DEI. But in any case, I did this purposely because I felt it was more, what's a good word, conducive overall to the setting. Like the layout of the eastern provinces are better in my opinion, which helps out with the Diadochi Wars, obviously. And then over in the west, we got the Italian Peninsula and Sicily. They have a far better layout, which helps out with the Samnite Wars. And further south with the Sicilian Wars between Carthage and Syracuse. So that's where I'm at with the setting. And speaking of the setting, everything has been entirely overhauled to match it historically. We're talking about the diplomacy, the region names, all the family trees. I think I've added something like 24 new minor factions to the map. These are mainly in Italia and over in the east. And at present, there are a total of 16 playable factions, all of which have been built from scratch. So I suppose the proper thing now would be to breeze through those real quick. We have the Antigonids here in the culture group of the Diadochi, headed by Antigonid the One-Eyed and his son Demetrius the I. Very, very famous commanders in history. Next we have the Seleucids, who do not start with the satraps. You're actually at war with the satrapies, as was the historical case. And then next we have the Ptolemies, who start out with just a tad bit more territory in Libya. And then we have the Antipatrids, headed by Cassander. They have a very difficult starting position. They're at war with a few factions around them. And then we have the Lysimicids. I think this will be the dark horse of the mod. I think, he's very overlooked in history, but I think people will appreciate his starting position. And he was a very capable commander in history as well. So you'll notice that I have 2 positive and 1 negative traits or effects for the faction. I did this as an effort to try and balance the game. I don't know if it'll work or not, but hopefully that does some justice. Next we have the Aetoloi. These are the Romans in the Italian peninsula, as well as the Samnites. And the only thing I'll say about the Samnites for now is that they have a very, very difficult position. I think even some seasoned players will have a difficulty getting a foothold in the starting position of the Samnites. We'll see if that's true, though. The Bretons are next. We have the Iceni, the Brigantes, and the Damatos. I think they're called the Damatae in vanilla. Next we have the Keltoi, who are really the Cisalpine Gauls. I actually created a new subculture group called the Cisalpine Gauls in the game itself. So we have the Insubres and the Senones. These are the descendants of those who sacked Rome in the early 4th century BC. And then we have the Germanic tribes. So I put a lot of work into the barbarian groups at large. I'm a big fan of. I mean, they have my heart in the game. Really, a lot of people, they play as Rome. That's the first thing you do. I played as the Swebi. Was the first thing I did. In this game, they are not called the Swebi. They're called something else. We have the Rugos, we have the Samnonos, and we have the Haruskos. So I called them Samnonos, just a small aside, and the DEI calls them Suebos because the Suebos is their confederation name. So it's like an overall entity, pretty much, consisting of a multitude of tribes. So the Samnonos was said to be by Tacitus, a famous Roman historian, the head tribe, or at least the oldest and most noblest of the tribe, I think is the exact words that he uses. So I chose the single tribe here. And then lastly, we have the Poinikees, which just translates to the Phoenicians, and that is the Carthage team. This is just Carthage itself, and those are the factions that we have in the mod that are currently playable. That may change, that is subject to change in the future though, with future updates. Alright, so now I think let's get into a campaign as the Antigonids, so I can show you what's been done in the game. So I chose 306 BC as a start date for, for a good number of reasons really. Firstly, this is set during the Fourth War of the Diadochi, specifically right before the Battle of Salamis between the Antigonids and the Ptolemaic dynasty. So here we have Demetrius I, son of Antigonid, with a slightly depleted army, and then we have Ptolemy himself down here, and he is ready to defend what is rightfully his, which is the island of Cyprus. So this battle was a clear turning point in the war historically, as whoever controlled it controlled a kind of key position in the Eastern Mediterranean board. In fact, the Antigonids won this battle, and Demetrius I sailed west over 2 roads, laid a very famous siege that earned him the name Poliorcetes, which I think means something like the besieger of cities, if I'm not mistaken. So that's what's happening here. Over in the east, we have the Seleucids. As I say, they are subjugating the satraps at this time. You actually never had them. Adverse to vanilla, where you had them and they rebelled and you had to get them back. Here, you never had them. Seleucid actually made a peace treaty with the Antigonids sometime in 309 BC. So he's not at war with anyone right now. He's just trying to vie for time. So that's why he's busy campaigning in the east. And then over in the mainland Greece, we have the Antipatrids, led by Cassander, and they are currently at war with Epirus, as well as the Talanti up here in the north. The Talanti were the Illyrian big dogs pretty much before the rise of the RDI sometime later. But anyways, this explains why the Antipatrids quote-unquote allowed the Athenians to be liberated by the Antigonids, because they essentially had other affairs they had to attend to. I just want to quickly show you the overhaul of the East that's been done here. I couldn't personally stand the vanilla treatment of like entire provinces being controlled by a single faction, so I fleshed it out with historically attested factions. I used primarily what's called the Anabasis of Alexander for this portion of the map. Basically, a Greek guy by the name of Arrian wrote an account of Alexander's conquests in this region, so that was a pretty great resource. I can link that below if you wish. So let me go to the map here. This is the Seleucid Empire when you start out as them. We have Seleucid himself, we have Antigonid the One-Eyed over here, and here are the factions. You'll notice also that the map itself is in Greek. It's not in Latin like it is in Vanilla Rome 2. I felt this was pretty appropriate given the theme of the mod is centered around the onset of the Hellenistic period and not so much the period of Roman hegemony. So I think it turned out okay. I mean, I made the whole thing myself. Hopefully it turned out okay. And also the provincial names in-game match the Greek as well. So hopefully this is fleshed out. You don't have to take out the entire region wholesale just by taking out a couple of factions. Hopefully it kind of deters and slows the pace of the campaign itself. So that's the eastern portion of the map, or the eastern theater, if you like. There's also a western theater too. Another reason why I chose this start date is because this is the tail end of the Second Samnite War, right before the Battle of Bovianum right here. So a lot of people don't know this. Let's get rid of this. A lot of people don't know this, but actually at the time, the Samnites had the upper hand, technically. You know, this is like roughly 15 or so years after they humiliated the Romans at Caudine Forks. And it took years for the Romans really to recuperate and get back to its standard strength. And I want to briefly show you the family tree here. Here we have Gaius Pontius right here. He was actually the general of the Samnites at the Battle of Caudine Forks, where they won against the Romans. So I decided to use his reported lineage for the mod. Also, this was the period of wars between Carthage and Syracuse down here in Sicily. And as you saw earlier, as right now only Carthage is playable. This may change, but you'll notice that this is the Augustus campaign map, as I say. So there's 3 settlements here in Sicily, and not 2 like there is in the standard Grand Campaign map. Alright, so that's the overall preview of the mod. Hopefully I've somewhat piqued your interest with it. I also want to say that I want to give a big shout out to Ave Metal. He's been a great advisor and a great person all around, to be honest. And as regards to the release date, I feel like that's kind of important. So the mod is practically ready. I just got to do some testing, so I'm thinking like the start of the new year. So chances are, honestly, if you're watching this video, because it's a couple of weeks away, the mod may already be out. So hopefully you like it. If you guys have any questions, you can reach me on Discord or even in the comments below. If you even have any like advice or anything to add to the setting, or any comments on it in general, I would like to hear whatever you had to say about it. So I thank you for your time. I hope you all have a good one, and I will be seeing you in the near future, hopefully.